In this video, I'd like to talk about the last 4 stanzas of John Donne's poem, A Valediction Forbidding Mourning. And as we pick it up here, John Donne writes to his beloved, to his wife, "Our 2 souls, therefore, which are one, though I must go, endure not yet a breach, but an expansion, like gold to airy thinness beat." Now, the idea here is that we start with this kind of paradox, another paradox, and in this case, John Donne is saying that they are truly one, and yet they have 2 separate souls. The idea is that as they separate from each other, their souls are going to remain connected to each other. And he compares this to gold. So if we have a block of gold and we kind of work with it and we beat it, then it doesn't break, okay? It doesn't cause a breach, but instead there's an expansion. So the gold just gets thinner and thinner and thinner, but it's still connected. And in the same way as John Donne and his wife leave each other as their souls are separate, they are still connected in this gold that just keeps on stretching and gets thinner and thinner. This connects back again to that notion of alchemy, which we talked about in previous videos. And gold is often seen as the noblest metal. So again, that ties in with this notion that their love is noble and special. It's not just like any other metal. And then finally, the alchemical symbol for gold is a circle with a dot in the middle. And that too ties in, I think, with a lot of the symbolism or with a lot of the metaphors in this poem. This notion of, for instance, the earth is surrounded by these spheres that go around it. We can also think of a ring, let's say. A ring signifies an eternal kind of love. It signifies infinity. And in the same way, gold, the symbol for gold, signifies something similar. Okay, so quite a beautiful stanza here. And John Donne expands on this notion of how their love is interconnected despite distance in the last 3 stanzas. And this is where he introduces the image of a compass. Now, before we read this, I want to show you a different picture here. So, bear with me here. This is from an emblem book. So this is George Wither's, A Collection of Emblems, Ancient and Modern. And these kinds of books were very popular in the Renaissance. These were books where they had a picture, an illustration like this, and it symbolized something. Nature stood for something greater. You could read nature in a way so that nature was symbolic of a larger meaning. What you can see here is that we have these 2 ideas, constancy and labor, and they're being related here to the image of a compass. Now, there are 2 kinds of compasses that we can think about when we hear the word compass. The one is a navigator's compass, which is where you try to figure out which way is north. And then we also have this kind of compass, which lets you draw circles. You may remember these from elementary school, perhaps. And they're often called dividers or drafting compasses. And as you look closely here, you can see that there's a kind of circle being drawn with this. So let's zoom in a little bit to the poem that goes with this. And this is from 1635. So it's after the time when John Donne wrote the poem. But a lot of the language is surprisingly similar. And it's quite fascinating how the 2 writers are bringing out similar ideas. So we'll pick it up here, and it says here, "For as to draw a circle with our hand, we cause the brazen compasses to stand," and brazen here means made of brass, "with one foot firmly fixed on the ground, and move the other in a constant round." So the one foot of the compass is standing firmly, and the other one is moving around constantly. And you can see how the idea of constancy, of staying the same, is related to drawing the circle. The poet continues, "Right so, when we shall purpose to proceed in any just and profitable deed, we first should by a constant resolution stand firm to what we put in execution, and then with perseverance labor out those workings which we are employed about." So the 2 ideas of constancy and labor are related. If you work hard, if you if you're constant to your task and you show resolution, then you're going to create a perfect circle. You're going to create something beautiful and perfect. If we go back to our poem now, we have a very similar idea here. John Donne is saying that his wife is the one foot of the compass, and that foot is firmly planted. He is the other foot, and maybe we'll draw this in the way that it's often used in, let's say, elementary school. So you may remember these kinds of dividers where your little pencil is stuck to the one leg, and then at the very top, you got this little thing here. You can adjust it a bit. Maybe there's something that ties the two together. So John Donne himself is over here. He is this leg, and his wife is the fixed foot, and she's not going to move. So he says, if they being the two souls, if they be two, they are two so as stiff twin compasses are two. And by stiff twin compasses, he means the two legs of the compass. Thy soul, the fixed foot, so that's this one, that's the wife, makes no show to move, but doth if the other do. So if John Donne, if his leg starts to move further out, right? So if we want to make a bigger circle, then we can go like this, and we can make a circle like that. There we go. We'll sort of draw a circle in the background. So if John Donne is trying to make a bigger circle, if he's going further away, then obviously his wife, this leg of the compass, is going to move after him, and she only moves when he moves. So thy soul, the fixed foot, makes no show to move, but doth move if the other do. And though it in the center sit, right, in the center of the circle, yet when the other far doth roam, the other foot is far away, it leans and hearkens after it. And there again we can see that notion that the one leg of the compass is leaning towards the other one, and grows erect as that comes home. Now, erect here does not have any sexual connotations. Erect here means straight up. So as this leg comes home again, right, then, as this right leg comes home, then we're going to have the one leg much straighter up. It's going to look more like that. Okay, and the one leg is going to return home. All right, so this is getting a little bit messy, but I hope you can see what this compass image is all about. Then we get to the final stanza, and this one reads, such wilt thou be to me, who must like the other foot, right, this foot that's way out, obliquely run. And obliquely here means on an angle. Thy firmness makes my circle just. And just in this case has more the sense of perfect. It's a good circle. So thy firmness, the fact that you're not wobbling, you're not nervous, you're not trembling, you're just firmly planted, makes my circle just. And there you can see that sense of constancy that we also saw in the emblem book that we just looked at. This sense that there is no trepidation, right? If we think about earlier in the poem, we had this notion that there was trepidation of the spheres, and we saw that that was referring to something in the heavens. But that's also a pun. It's a play on words on this sense of nervousness, on wobbling, on wavering. And by contrast now, we finish with the sense of firmness. There is no wavering. Thy firmness makes my circle just. Now, as we look back, we can also start then to see that perhaps roaming could have a negative connotation. If you roam, maybe you're straying, maybe you're flirting with somebody else. And it's almost as if John Donne's wife is like, following after him and making sure that he stays on the right path. But maybe that's reading too much into these last lines. And so he says, and makes me end where I begun. So as the compass starts out and it draws a circle all the way around, then at the end, this leg is going to come back into the center, and we're going to have the two close together again, and the journey is finished. Some critics have objected to this last little bit, though. Even though it has this wonderful sense of circularity, and the whole poem now feels circular, there's something not quite right about this image, because it's really mixing up two things. it's mixing up drawing a circle with its sense of perfection, and then it's also thinking more about this radius here, right? The sense of the line that draws him back home, because now he's not just drawing a perfect circle, but he's actually coming back home into the middle. And some critics have felt that the two ideas, this notion of circular motion versus what might be called rectilinear motion, so in a straight line, rectilinear, that the two are contradictory. And some people have found a way to reconcile this by saying, well, maybe what's actually happening here is he's not thinking just of circles and rectilinear motion, but he's thinking of the classic spiral. So if we think of a spiral and we start in the middle and we just keep going, then the spiral traditionally is seen as the perfect reconciliation of these two forms of motion, of rectilinear motion and circular motion. And that could be one way in which we can kind of make sense of this. But I don't know that you necessarily have to. I think John Donne is quite content to create these startling images that shock, that make you think, that maybe jostle with each other. And sometimes maybe it's not perfectly executed, but it really does create the sense of fireworks, a kind of intellectual demonstration. Hopefully that makes some sense of the poem. Hopefully you find it a beautiful, intricate, and really complex poem. There's so much more we could say about this poem, but I think hopefully this gives you a good introduction.